Good afternoon. We're going to do the watch list for the week of July 6th, 2020. Looking at futures, which is ES, even though the market was closed Friday, futures were still open. Right now it's pretty much flat, and it's going by Thursday's close, not what happened on Friday. Because if it was going by Friday's close, it'd be up at least 10 points, and it's saying it's negative 50, so it's going by Thursday's close, not Friday. So, I'm not surprised that the market's flat. More record cases coming in over the weekend. Futures don't care. The week could be tricky. So I think the SPY will probably end up popping tomorrow. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they push it to 320 and fill that gap in on the daily. I'll show you the gap before I go into the watch list. I'll probably end up trading more SPX than usual this week, especially on the expiration days. So you get this gap right here at 318.21. I see it getting pushed to 320. So unless bad news comes out, when the cases have been rising for the last couple of weeks, death rate numbers should start coming in this week and probably spike a lot, because it usually is a 2-week lag from the time the cases are confirmed to the time that people actually lose their life. So not that we want that, because nobody wants that, but that's the realistic approach to what's happening right now. That 2 weeks to get infected, and another 2 weeks for it to be fatal. So this week and next week should start seeing those numbers rise, and I would be surprised, like I said, if SPY is green tomorrow and probably red on Tuesday, or even starts green tomorrow and finishes red tomorrow. So keep an eye out for that. So I think SPY gets pushed to 320. With that said, the first thing I have on my bullish list is BA. The thing I like about BA is obviously it's going to trade with SPY. SPY's green, 95% chance it's going with it. It closed above or at the middle Keltner channel on the daily. It has a bearish setup on the hourly and daily, but the market's green. Boeing's going to go with it. And the thing I want to point out with Boeing is the weekly. It's under the middle Keltner channel, but look how far it is from the RCT trend line. Every time it gets disconnected that far away, it ends up usually going back up and retesting it. Now, I'm not saying it's going to go up and test it for 300 this week, but they have news coming out in maybe a month, maybe two, about the max. So when they get it cleared for that, I suspect that we're going to end up seeing Boeing around 250. So, but this week it's going to be all depending on what happens with the news this week, with the market, with COVID-19, or any other surprises that come up. So trade accordingly. I am looking for Boeing over 184. It's 184, probably 188 to 190. And if it gets any momentum, you can see it get to 195. Now, if it could break the 195, it could probably go to 200. Boeing may release some teaser news this week about certification or something. They could who knows what they could drop for news, but Boeing could do something, get the market, the stock price going. So Netflix is the other one. Netflix has earnings in a couple weeks. Now Netflix likes to run 2-3 weeks before earnings, so it just had a major pop this past week. It could keep going. I mean, historically, every time it has news like right before earnings, it runs for a couple weeks, and it did the same thing back here. If I go out more, I'll go out to the weekly. Like right here, it popped, and this was the earnings right there that week. So it runs up. Let's blow it up a little more. Then you get right here is the earnings, and it ran up a couple weeks. So it has a history of running up on earnings. So I think it's a little overextended, but with earnings, I mean, Netflix can just keep going and going and going. So I look for it over 482 for probably a push to 500. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Netflix runs to 500 this week. So on earnings. Roku is another one. Roku is up against some resistance on the weekly. You get this downtrend right here. You can see it's up against it, and it's butting up against the RCT trend line on the weekly. But the daily, it's got an inverted head and shoulders, the left head, right, and it gets over this 133 area. It's going to get to 135 and probably test the 140. Now if it gets over 140 and it's got some momentum, it's going to go to 150. Roku is one of those stocks that once it gets momentum behind it, it goes cruising. I mean, just like it did back here, it went from 116 to 129. I mean, that's a 13-point move in a day. So Roku can definitely pull a 13-point move again. So definitely keep an eye on Roku to break out of that inverted head and shoulders on the daily. Apple, if the market's green, Apple's just going to continue its insane run. I'd say get over 368 for a test of 370 and test, is that all-time high? Let's check to make sure. Yep. Retest all-time high, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if it ends up going to 380 if the market's strong. But like I said, that the market could start out strong, then news could come out about more closures or more store closures for Apple, or other unknown variables could come into play, and just everything could take a 180. It could end up being really bullish, and just 10 minutes later, just everything's tanking. So you got to be aware that there is high probability of news coming out that could really affect the market. So be very careful. Keep that in mind. QCOM is another one. Now QCOM is right up here. I mean, you could say it's an inverted head and shoulders. This is the left shoulder. This is the big massive head and the right shoulder. You could say this is a cup and handle, cup and a handle. I mean, either way, whatever you want to call it. It gets over this 92.50. It's going to push to 93. And I think that you could see it even get up into the 95 area and retest this 96 level. So let's see, is that all-time high? Yeah, that is all-time high. And if it does end up breaking all-time high, it could probably go to 100. So QCOM is someone you should watch. NVIDIA is another one. NVIDIA, I mean, it's got this trend line. It keeps rejecting. I mean, it could come back and test the middle count on the daily, but if the market's strong, NVIDIA is going to go with it, and it breaks out of that, it's going to end up going to 400. So I would catch it over the 390. You even get over 388, and if we're pushed to a 390, and probably going to end up going to 400. So NVIDIA can make a strong breakout, so I would keep an eye on that. It has a history of when it breaks out, it's pretty strong. So next one is Lululemon, LULU. It did close above the middle Keltner channel on the daily. It does have a gap to fill. I mean, it could fill the gap, but I do like that it's curling on the 4 hour right in the. I'm sorry, that's not the 4 hour. This is a 4 hour. No, I meant 1 hour. Thinking of something else. But anyways, it's curling on the 1 hour. It gets over the middle Kel. It gets over this 306 area. I would watch for a 310 to 315. If it gets over the 315 area, it's probably going to test this 325 level again, which is all-time high. Let's see, do they have no earnings? Okay, just check and make sure. They just had earnings anyway. So Lulu, I would definitely watch that for that move, but be aware there is a gap to fill, and if it does fill a gap, that might be even a better area to get in, and the gap fill is right around 295. So if you want to put an alert down there for gap fill or a breakout, then you can put an alert right here, and you can put an alert right here over the 306 area. So BIB, which is Biogen, it's been kind of bottoming out on the daily. So if it gets over the 267, push to 270, and even get to the 273, and if it could seem to break out of that, look for a gap fill in the 280s. So it does have like a weird looking inverted head and shoulders. You get the left shoulder, the head, and the right shoulder, and if it can get any momentum over 270, it could clearly possibly fill the gap to 380. So it does look like it's bottoming out on the weekly. You can see that MACD's crossing on the daily. Actually, the weekly's right here. See, it likes this little channel right here. It's draw the line so you can see. See, it's sticking right in with that, so definitely like that. Now on the bearish side, if the market's weak, FedEx is one that I like. Let me get to the daily. Yeah, it went up on earnings and it pulled back on Friday, Thursday, so I would look for more downside. It's possible it could pop back up and test 160 if the market's strong, but I like it better than the downside. So if the market's weak, I would look for it under 155 and for a gap fill, which is obviously down here at the 140 area. So definitely like FedEx and UPS the same way. Let's see, does UPS have earnings coming up? Check it. Their earnings is the 30th of July, so that's ways away. So definitely like FedEx over UPS. UPS just popped because it's a sympathy to FedEx, so I would definitely choose FedEx over UPS. Another one's Disney. Disney's going to end up following the market unless news comes out. So this one could be a either or. It could go up, it could go down. It's going to depend on the market, but I prefer it on the downside if the market's weak. If it gets under the 112 area, I'd look for it to get down to 110, even the 108 area. And it loses 108, it's going to end up going down to 100. So you get a lot of support right at the 100 region. We'll have to see if news comes out of more closings and stuff like that. So that will have a big difference on Disney. Next one is Win. Now Win, it looks like it's curling up and it could break out, over this 79 area and 80 and get to 85. It could possibly do that, but if the virus COVID-19 keeps getting worse, I think that you're going to end up seeing the casinos closing or voluntarily closing. I don't think they'll probably even voluntarily close, but they could have news that they could force the casinos to reclose. So I would keep an eye out for that news. And if it does drop, I would definitely short Win, and I think that that'll be a good play. Tesla is another one. I know a lot of people are going to give me flack about this, but whatever, I don't care. It's every time it gets way outside the little channel, like right here and right here, it has a big pullback. So I'm looking for the same thing on Tesla under 111.94 for a gap fill. So which is the gap fill is 1132. Ish, so I think that would be a good play. Now I know that Tesla just likes to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, but every time it gets really disconnected from the daily calendar channel, it has a big pullback the next day or a couple days. So I am looking for the same thing on Tesla, and you can look on the weekly on Tesla. Look how disengaged it is from the RSI trend line. It went up for like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and it completely just dumped, and it came back and retested it. So I would like to see at least Tesla come back to let's see, 1030. I don't know if I'll get that low, but definitely like it for at least 1130 for a gap fill on Tesla. So that's going to be risky, and so just be cautious of that. WeDay is another one. Now the reason I like WeDay is the same purpose. The weekly, it's up against the RSI trend line, and usually it does not like to it likes to reject it. It got over here, that quickly rejected it. So I would look for WeDay for underneath 186.50 to 180 to even down into the 170s area for WeDay. The last one is Baidu. I usually do BABA. I'll look at BABA too. Do I have BABA on the list? I didn't have BABA on the list. I like trading BABA. Anyways, you get the trend line on Baidu on the daily. It's the weekly look right here. It's not like descending channel. It could possibly break out, but I don't think it will. I could be wrong. I would definitely like to see it under 122 for a gap fill to 120 and retest the 120.19 area, and then even fill another gap down here that's down into the 117. So you get two gaps to fill right here. You get the 122, 121, then you get the 117. So I'd be looking for that to get filled, perhaps this week if the market's weak. So that's what I'd be looking at for when the market's strong and weak, the bullish and the bearish. And obviously you get Baidu right here, BABA right here. It's stuck in a rising channel, so even a rising wedge you can call it. So I do like trading BABA, but I would think that BABA would look good under 220 for a gap fill. So I would probably keep an eye on for that tomorrow, or even this week. I might even put that down on my list. I mean, I thought I had it down there, but I guess I didn't. But like I said, this week's going to be probably tricky. It's going to be probably purely news-driven. The market's probably going to pick and choose what it likes, what it dislikes. You just have to react to what the market reacts to, and don't go too heavy in positions, because like I said, that the market could start off very bullish, and then it could just, bad news could come out, and then everything could get wrecked really fast. So stocks like to take the elevator up and the window down. So things can do a 180 turn in a blink of an eye. So just be careful and trade cautious and be patient and let plays come to you. And that's going to be it. Thank you.